All right, let's jump right in. Today we're tackling a huge topic for your exams, the law of maintenance. It's a cornerstone of family law, and we're going to break it all down. What it is, who can claim it, and some of the massive court cases that have shaped it. Ready?
So think about this for a second. At its core, the whole idea of maintenance law boils down to one simple but really profound question. If you can't support yourself financially, does someone else in your family have a legal duty to help you out? That's the puzzle we're going to solve today.
Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, what is maintenance law? Then we'll look at it through the lens of Hindu law, and after that, the big one, the secular remedy in the CrPC that applies to everyone. We'll hit the landmark cases you absolutely have to know, and then wrap it up with some quick-fire revision notes to lock it all in. All right, Section 1. First things first, right? Before we dive into all the complicated sections and famous cases, we need to get on the same page. Let's build a really solid foundation and figure out what we're actually talking about when we say maintenance. So here's the textbook definition, but let's break it down. Maintenance is basically a legal order for one person to provide financial support to another. And we're not talking about paying for fancy cars or vacations here. This is about the absolute basics needed to live. Food, a roof over your head, clothes. It's about sustenance, pure and simple. But why? Why does the law even get involved in family finances like this? Well, it's a huge deal. It all comes down to social justice. The whole point is to prevent people from falling into extreme poverty, from becoming destitute. It's about making sure individuals don't become a burden on society because their family won't support them. It basically turns what we think of as a moral duty into a legally enforceable one. It's all about letting people live with a basic level of dignity. Okay, now that we have the what and why down, let's get more specific. We're moving into our second section, where we'll look at this whole concept through a personal law angle, specifically maintenance under Hindu law. And when we talk about Hindu law and maintenance, the first place you have to look is the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Inside this act, there are two absolutely critical sections you need to know, Section 24 and Section 25. These deal with maintenance specifically when a couple is going through legal proceedings, like a divorce. Okay, pay close attention here, because this is where students often get mixed up. You got Section 24 and Section 25, and they do different things. Think of Section 24 as maintenance for the meantime. It's interim support paid while the court case is still happening, to cover legal fees and day-to-day expenses. Then you have Section 25. This is the big one, permanent alimony. This is awarded when the divorce is finalized, and it's for long-term support. And here's a key point for both. It's not just the wife who can claim. Either spouse can file for it. So the Hindu Marriage Act covers what happens during a divorce. But what if a couple isn't getting divorced, but one spouse still needs support? Or what about other family members? Well, for that, we have to turn to a different law, the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956, often just called HAMA. And this one has a much, much broader reach. And when I say broad, I mean it. Look at who can claim under HAMA. A wife can seek maintenance even if she's still married and living separately. A widowed daughter-in-law can claim from her father-in-law. It covers children, both legitimate and illegitimate. And, so importantly, it also includes aged or infirm parents. This law really gets to the heart of that idea of a wider family obligation. All right, so we've seen how Hindu personal law handles this. But what about everyone else? Is there a law that cuts across all religions and applies to every single citizen in India? Yes, there is. And that brings us to our third part, the powerful secular remedy that we find in the Code of Criminal Procedure. And here it is, Section 125 of the CrPC. Seriously, if you only remember one section from this entire explainer, make it this one. It is an incredibly powerful piece of law designed for one main purpose: to provide a fast and effective shield against poverty. The absolute number one thing to know about Section 125? It is secular. That means it applies to everyone, regardless of their religion. It doesn't matter what your personal laws say. This section stands apart. It's built for speed, it's a social justice tool to prevent homelessness, and it gets triggered under one specific condition: when a person who has the money neglects or just plain refuses to support their dependent wife, children, or parents. So how does it work in practice? It's actually designed to be pretty simple. You start by filing an application with a local magistrate. Then, both parties get to show their cards. They present evidence of their income, their needs, their assets. The court then does a quick inquiry. It's not a full-blown trial. And if the magistrate agrees with the claim, they'll pass an order for a monthly allowance. The whole thing is built for speed and efficiency.
Okay, so we've got the theory down, but reading the law books is one thing. Seeing how it actually plays out in court, that's where it gets really interesting. So let's get into the landmark cases. This is where we see the law in action, where the Supreme Court has stepped in and shaped how we understand maintenance today.
And we have to start with the big one, the Shaw-Bono case from 1985. The facts are just heartbreaking. You have a 73-year-old woman divorced by her husband, left with nothing. The question before the Supreme Court was simple but huge. Does Section 125 of the CrPC apply to Muslims? The court's answer was a resounding yes. They declared that this secular law's goal, to prevent poverty, overrides any conflicting personal laws. This wasn't just a judgment, it was a defining moment for women's rights and social justice in India. But wait, the story gets even more complex. The Shaw-Bono judgment caused a huge uproar, and a new law was passed. This new law was then challenged in the Daniel Latifi case. Now here's where the Supreme Court did something brilliant. Instead of striking down the new law, they interpreted it. They said, yes, the law is valid, but the phrase, reasonable and fair provision that a husband must make during the iddah period, that short waiting period after divorce, doesn't just mean support for that period. It means he has to provide for her entire future during that time. It was a genius move that connected the right to maintenance to the fundamental right to life. Just incredible.
Okay, deep breath. We've gone through the basics, the specific laws, and the game-changing court cases. Now it's time to put it all together. This next slide is your ultimate revision guide, your final brief before the exam. Everything you need to know, all in one place.
All right, let's do a quick-fire recap. What's maintenance? It's a legal duty to stop people from becoming destitute. What about Hindu law? You've got the Hindu Marriage Act for divorce situations and HAMA for a wider range of family members. The law for everyone? That's Section 125 of the CrPC. It's secular and speedy. Who can claim? Wives, children, and parents who can't support themselves. What's the key condition? There has to be neglect from someone who has the money to pay. What's the landmark case you can't forget? Shaw-Bono, which proved Section 125 trumps personal law. And finally, how much is paid? That's up to the court, based on the needs and income of everyone involved. Got it?
So there you have it, a complete breakdown of the law of maintenance. But I want to leave you with one final question to think about. Most of these laws were drafted a long, long time ago. Our world looks very different now, right? Family structures are changing, our ideas about gender roles are evolving. So the big question is, how should these laws change too? How do we adapt them for the 21st century? That's not a question with an easy answer, and it's something your generation of lawyers will have to figure out. Thanks so much for joining me.